All right. Good. So we are recording. Hi and welcome. My name is Sarah Hawkins of True North Business Management, and welcome to Ideas to Done, twice monthly webinars where I talk with other fellow entrepreneurs about getting things done in business and in life. And my guest today is Kim Dawson, business strategist and consultant, reading the bio, business strategist and consultant for entrepreneurs and small business owners. She helps her clients by teaching them how to run their businesses better and to become more profitable. She works with entrepreneurs to help them connect their passions to smart, effective strategies in order to achieve the results they desire. Kim is the host of Sassy Strategist podcast, and she's launching her first book. Very exciting. We should talk about this. She's launching her first book in 2018, From Passion to Profits, The Sassy Strategist Guide to Building Your Business. You can connect with Kim online and social media at Sassy Strategist. So without further ado, let's just do the whole screen here. And so welcome, Kim, and thanks again for joining me. And what we are talking about today, among other things, is business plan versus strategic plan, or the benefits of having a good strategy in order to meet your business goals. So
thank you for having me, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. As Sarah mentioned, I'm Kim Dawson. I'm very happy to be here. Sarah and I have known each other for probably a year and a half, maybe at this point. Maybe even going on 2 years. So it's been a while, and it's always a pleasure to get together with you, Sarah, and work with you. So, so do you want me to start talking about business plans and strategic plans and kind of go from there?
Yeah, for those who didn't have a chance or maybe just stumbled upon this video, so I have, Kim has and before we started talking, I was having struggle finding my words. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great interview. I'm not going to be able to find my words. But she created a companion, that's the word, a companion blog post to accompany this conversation about the importance of having a strategic plan. And so you can find that on my website, truenorthbusinessmanagement.com. You can find the article there. But yeah, Kim, for those who didn't get a chance to read it, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you wrote and what your passion is behind helping people develop a good strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I might even do that in reverse. So with strategic plans, everybody always wants to hear about what's in it for them, right?
Yeah, right.
What's in it for you as a business owner is not having a strategic plan. It's very cliche to say this, but it's like going someplace without a map. You're not just going to get in your car and figure out how to go someplace that you've never been, but realistically, that is exactly what most business owners do. They have this passion and they think, oh, I really want to do this and I'm going to make a business out of it, but they wind up thinking in a very reactive mode. So they'll say, okay, well, what do I need to do? I need a website, I need this, I need that. And they just start filling in holes, basically, but they really don't have any kind of a plan as to where they're going. So what happens is they go into this reactive mode and they get by, but they don't really achieve the goals that they're thinking about in their mind. Because when people start a business, they might have some vision of, you know what, I'd really like to make this much money each year. I'd really like to make, have this many clients. I'd really like to have this sort of a lifestyle. So people do have a vision, but they don't necessarily write down the steps of, whatever that number is. If you want to pick a number, if somebody says, you know what, I want to make $1 million a year, they don't necessarily say, well, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
So the strategic plan, the purpose of it is that it kind of forces you to take that vision that you have in your mind, or all of your visions, and map out an actual plan that is very step by step. First, you got to do this, then you got to do this, then you got to do this, and then it keeps you accountable, and so that you actually have a better chance of reaching that goal. So that's the purpose of the strategic plan. And then now going into what the blog post was about, because a lot of people hear the term strategic plan, they don't know what that means, but they know business plan, so they assume it's the same thing. But a business plan is really something that you do when you're first starting your business. It's not really a map as much as it is a summary, if you will, of this is my business, this is what I'm calling it, This is where I'm going to be located.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm going to sell. This is how much I'm going to sell it for. This is my employee team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more just kind of this description that's very detailed about your business. And most people use business plans as a starting point to figure out, well, what is my business plan? They want to define it. I'm sorry, my business. They want to define their business.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's also to get funding for something, because nobody's going to give you any money as a business if you don't give them a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the business plan. The strategic plan comes after that. It's more when you're looking at it and saying, well, what are my specific goals? Where do I want to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? And then, as I said before, kind of creating the plan of how you're going to get there.
Right, right. And then, I was mentioning earlier that I was in a group this morning, a mastermind, where she talks about, this idea of having your one goal that we visit as a group each, however often we meet, and the steps, like the things we're going to do between meetings that will help us reach that goal. So to your point, like some of us have revenue goals. Some of us have numbers, like how many widgets am I going to sell this week? How many conversations am I going to have? How many networking events am I going to go to? That sort of thing. So, the overall strategy, like, right. It's like, well, I want to make $1 million, and that sounds great, but like, how are you actually going to do that? And how many widgets do you need to sell in order to like make $1 million?
Exactly. And one of the benefits of it, because some people do tend to think that they already know the answers to this and they have it in their head. But what you'll find if you really take the time to sit down and create a strategic plan is that the things that you might be assuming aren't real. So, for example, you might have in your head, going on with your widgets example, right?
Just the widgets, right?
You can say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to sell 1 million widgets, and I'm going to sell them all for $50 each, and I'm going to sell them in these 5 states. And you have all this stuff in your head, but you haven't really fully calculated all of this out. But when you sit down and you start getting into the components of a strategic plan, which can be really, I don't want to say complicated, because it's not complicated, it's just detailed.
Yeah. When
you start getting into those details and you start crunching the numbers, you might find that nobody's going to buy your widgets at $50 a widget. And you're not good at, you don't really have the market to sell that many of them. There's not that many people that are even going to find you or need your product. So you start getting into those types of details, and then you realize that you have to alter what you originally planned. And that's one of the big benefits of that strategic plan. And then when you get to that point, you say, well, do I have to look at my pricing? Is my pricing off? Is my market off? Is my market too defined? Do I have too much of a niche? Or is it not defined enough and I need to start segmenting out? Am I looking at the wrong areas for my product? Am I in the completely wrong market altogether? And so it forces you to ask yourself all of these questions that you might not think to ask when you're just living inside of your head of what are your big ideas.
Right. And you might not even want to make widgets. You might find out that's boring. So
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because sometimes that does happen a lot. You start a business with a certain idea and then you get into it and then you realize, oh, this isn't really what I wanted to do. I really like this aspect of what I do. And then you start going down a different path.
So how did you yourself start getting interested in helping people improve their business strategies?
That's a really good question, because I think I can answer that in 2 completely different answers, right? So,
pick one, or give me both of them.
So there's this sort of pragmatic side of things, right? So I have had an entrepreneurial past. I always tell people I've been an entrepreneur ever since I can remember. When I was a little kid, I was about 7 years old, and my best friend and I would make all these arts and crafts out of pipe cleaners and felt paper and little wooden dowels that we would find at the arts and crafts store and beads and stuff. And we would make these arts and crafts, And then we would go around our neighborhood. I grew up on Long Island, which has a lot of developments, a lot of huge neighborhoods. And we would go around knocking on doors like, do you want to buy our necklace? Do you want to buy our this?
Wow.
And so we would make, we might go out for an afternoon and we'd make $10. And when you're 7 years old in 1980 something, $10 was a lot of money. And then we would take it and we'd say, okay, well, we need to buy more supplies. So, okay, we got to spend $5 more on beads. And then we have $5 left. And now we can go buy candy from the corner store, and I didn't even realize that I was doing profit and loss statements in my head. And that's pretty much, that's been my life ever since. I was always looking for opportunities to make money. I didn't grow up with any money. My parents were poor. And I always had this idea in my head that it didn't matter that I grew up that way, that I could grow up and be successful as long as I was in control of my life. And I always saw entrepreneurship as a way to control what I wanted. So I would look at myself and say, well, I don't have this now, but someday I'm going to have this, and this is how I'm going to work towards it. So I've always had a real passion for entrepreneurship because I do believe that it really allows people to own their life and to take their passion and just control everything that they need to control. Yes. So there's that passionate side of it, and then I take that the step further, and I want to help other people with that. I don't like the idea that somebody is sad and depressed in their job, but they feel that they have no choice and they're not making their life what they want to. So the real reason I do what I do is because it allows me this ability to say, hey, if you really want all of these things in life, this is how you can get it. Let's take a look at your business, let's figure it out, and let's get you to where you want to go. So that's my sort of, I said I was going to give you two answers, but I think that I gave you two in one story.
Yeah, it's kind of like, so I went to a workshop where they talked about, I don't know, I think it was like your elevator pitch or your personal brand, or I can't remember what it was. But the point is, the first thing that she had us do was articulate your why. Like, why are you in business, right? And then the next thing is like, why do you do like this particular thing? And so I think you told both of those stories. Like, why, like my why is I just like, I'm personally in business for myself because I hate the idea of a commute. Like, I think it's ridiculous to get in the car and drive to work every day and then spend all day, like to be in a place at a time for like 9 to 5 makes no sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. For some positions it does. It certainly, you do need to have, like for customer service, if somebody goes to a store, then but for the kind of work that I do, I don't need to be in a place at a time. If people need me to perform a service for them, and they give me a deadline, I can meet that deadline. And it doesn't, the other stuff is just sort of can be worked within that. And then I, like you, also, it's like seeing people trying to, who have a passion to run their business. They have a passion to sell widgets, but they don't know how to run the business. And that's the piece. And then they're struggling. There's this passion, but then there's the frustration because they can't do it because there's just, all these things that they didn't know about or don't know how to do or whatever, or don't want to do. And then, how do you figure those pieces out? So we're simpatico in that way. And so the other thing that I wondered about too was, I know, so you have this podcast that you do and this book that you're writing.
Yes.
Is there any, like, so what else, what about those?
I know, it's like, why do all these things, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a lot. And it's actually a good question, because sometimes I even question this myself, like I'm trying to do this and then there's that. But a lot of times I'll give my clients the advice of, stay focused on one thing. But in essence, I think all of these things work together. Mm-hmm. I just need to be very scheduled. And this is a lot into what you do for work, is being very scheduled about, okay, when am I doing the podcast? When am I recording? When am I taking time for this? And blocking out the right times. And as long as I'm really sticking to a schedule with this, it works. Mm-hmm. But so the podcast, when I first started it, my idea was, and this has changed, but my idea was I didn't feel that we were seeing enough successful female entrepreneurs in the media, right? So I'm not talking about famous people either. I'm talking about, you know, we see a lot of very successful men who are CEOs and founders of startups and growing companies. I just don't think we see as many women doing that. So I wanted to start highlighting them to say, hey, you know, they're here, they exist, and here's their story. And then other people listening can learn from their story and get ideas. Because I think that one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur is kind of like what you were saying about the commute. We tend to work by ourselves, right? Yeah. So we're working from home. We have our own little office. And I'm sorry, I realize people are mowing lawns outside. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
I don't hear it at all.
Oh, good, great. Okay, so because I can't control that. I'm still going. But anyway, so I think entrepreneurs are in these silos. And they have all this desire to work for themselves, but they don't have resources. And they need, we really can't succeed without other people helping us. I truly believe it's not even possible. Yeah. So I think that a lot of us, we're always searching for information. And sometimes we're searching for information we don't know what we're looking for because we don't know that it exists, right? So there could be, you could have a problem that you know you need fixing, and you have no idea that there's this fabulous software product out there that everybody's using that would completely solve your problem, but you don't know that it's out there because you're not talking to enough people to know that it's out there.
Yeah.
So I think that bringing this information to people and hearing other people's stories, they're able to give you ideas as a business owner. And you can say, oh, I never heard of that software. That's a great idea. Oh, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to download that. So really that's the purpose of the podcast is bringing resources to entrepreneurs to help them build their business. Yeah. Now I'm in the process of rebooting and rebranding the podcast. I took a break from it. Now I'm getting ready to relaunch in January. Excellent. And it's not going to just highlight female entrepreneurs anymore. It's going to highlight anybody who's an entrepreneur plus anybody who supports entrepreneurs. So it could be lawyers. It could be, you know, consultants. It could be anybody that has useful, resourceful information for entrepreneurs. So that is the podcast.
Great.
And then the book actually stemmed from a workshop that I did last year called Passions to Profits. And I wound up, this was the first really big workshop that I was doing, and I wound up going completely crazy with it. And I created this 150-page manual full of worksheets and exercises and all this stuff. And I couldn't believe when I was done how much I wrote. And I looked at it and I said, I have a book here. In fact, I might even have 4 books here. There's so much information. And so I started thinking, you know, it makes a lot of sense for me to take this and publish this information so that people can access it whenever they need. So if somebody isn't right in Boston or Massachusetts and they want this information, they can just download it. And there it is.
And there it is. Well, that's perfect. And so, like, once again, that's the Sassy Strategist podcast in the upcoming book, From Passions to Profits, the Sassy Strategist Guide to Building Your Business, just to repeat in case you're tuning in late and you missed that in the beginning. And so, you know, nice little segue that, you know, so Kim and I actually met. I attended one of Kim's workshops, and then she and I worked together a little bit and have come back together again to do some collaborative stuff. And so one thing that we have coming up is a workshop. So we are developing a workshop on developing a strategy and implementing your strategy. And, you know, because the thing is, right, Kimmy, we've talked about this, that so many of us, so say you're not one of those people that like lives in a silo, but you do go out there and you do attend classes and you do attend workshops and you just have all of this information. And it's kind of like, you know what you need to do, but you don't know how to do it, or you're not making the time to do it. So the point of this workshop is to do that, to like incorporate this knowledge or to implement this knowledge that you have, and set aside a day, because this is a day-long thing. We're doing this 9 to 4:30, and set aside the day, and pick your thing that you want to work on, for whether it's like at the end of the month or if it's a big hairy goal for like 2018. How are you going to get there? So,
absolutely. Yeah, it's hugely important. And I think people listening know that if they haven't taken the time to do this, they know that they haven't taken the time and why they need it. And
it's like the gun.
Exactly. And, and it's funny because, just to share some of my experience is I have, believe it or not, I've had clients that have come to me just for a strategy session. So they're not even long-term clients. They're people that they sign up for, sort of a discovery session with me.
Uh-huh.
We meet for an hour and a half or so, and we prepare for these meetings. But after meeting with me, they realize that they've never taken the time to just sit down and start mapping out some strategies. And I've actually had clients that once they've left these sessions have gone out, implemented what they learned, and doubled their annual revenue. If you can believe that, just from a session. It's not because I'm doing anything fabulous. It's not me. It's that they're really just being forced to take that time to sit down and go, okay, well, here are my goals. Here's all this information. How do I take that and actually apply it and do something with it? And then when they leave, I give them homework and I say, okay, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And then they start implementing it and they see results. So that's really what this workshop is about for us, is it's combining both your skills and my skills and then sharing them with our audience to say, when you're organized, when you're planning, when you're mapping it out, when you're managing your projects, when you're doing these things and taking the initiative, you really are going to see results.
Right.
You're not going to see results when you just sit around and wish for them and think about them and have the information circulating in your head. It's when you take them down, you put them in a workbook and you go, what am I doing this week? What am I doing next week? How am I doing this? What's the plan?
Right.
Because like you were saying, sometimes you can sign up for workshops where you'll learn about, say, social media, right? You'll sign up for some 2-hour workshop. Oh, how to improve your social media, or how to get more followers on Instagram, or whatever works for you, right?
Yep.
You go and you learn a few interesting things, but you go home and you're like, well, I don't know what to do with this. Do I have to do more research? How do I get this going? How do I have a plan? So this workshop is really gonna have people sit down and create that plan. So at the end of the day, they're going to walk away with exactly what they need to do to get to where they want to go.
Right, which is very exciting. I was really excited when you asked me to work with you on this, Kim, because I had the same sort of thought about, I really would love to do something which would help people at the end of the day leave with like their plan of action for the next however long it is that they're able to build it in. And so this is like a really personalized, we're keeping this small for the purpose that we're able to like spend one-on-one time with people, and also so that the people in the room can get to know each other a little bit and like expand their network and lean on each other, because like what you said, maybe the problem that you're struggling with can be solved by this person sitting next to you that there's something that you don't even know exists that could be exactly the magic tool for whatever challenge you happen to be facing. So it's funny, the last Ideas to Done conversation I had 2 weeks ago with Marisa Bishop, we talked about setting up your, like she calls it like your 3 steps to getting it all done. And the key is how to like organize your to-do list, like, and I'm pointing to the head because so many of us carry this around in our head, get it out on paper, and then plan ahead of time so that when you wake up in the morning, you know exactly what you're doing that day, and you're not spending time you're not wasting time like checking your email or, looking on Facebook or doing anything like that. You know exactly what it is you need to do that day because you planned it the day before. And on Sunday night, you planned your week. And so Monday, you look at it's almost like a no-brainer, but so few of us do it.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, it's so effective too. When you really stop to do it, it's amazing the difference. Because I do think a lot of people, we tend to be shuffling all over the place. And like you were saying, with all the to-do lists in your head, when it's not organized,
Yeah.
it tends to overwhelm us. And then when it overwhelms you, you wind up not doing anything. You actually become completely ineffective and inactive at the times that you most want to be active.
Yeah.
Because you're just mentally overwhelmed.
Right.
So by taking that time to organize and plan out and look at your business as a bunch of mini projects, which is what it really is, your marketing strategies are a mini project. And within that mini project, you might have 3 mini projects.
Yep.
And if you take the time to really organize each of these out and then say, okay, well, yes, this is what I'm doing on Mondays. This is what I'm doing on Tuesdays. This is what I'm doing on Wednesday. And you map everything out. You sit down, you're not stressed. You've got your list. You know what you need to work off of that day.
Yep.
And you're more productive. And if not, people really do, like you mentioned, they're checking email throughout the day, going on Facebook, checking things throughout the day. You don't realize how much time that wastes, but it adds up.
It does. It adds up. And you
can get so much more done if you had designated times to check. So it's not that you need, most of us have to be in social media for our businesses, but you're much better off saying, you know what, I'm going to check 3 times a day. I'm going to check first thing in the morning, answer any responses, respond to comments, do whatever I need to do. Now I'm not checking again until after lunch. I'm going to again go through, respond, do what I need to do. And then I'm going to check one more time at the end of the day.
Yep.
That's what I try to do. I'm not always perfect with that, but that's sort of my method. But if I don't do it that way, I just get distracted. And I think we all do. So it's like,
I can't remember which particular author it was who wrote this, but it's a common thread throughout everyone who, all of the big names who've written things about habits, and that the key to creating good habits is to not have to think about it. Right. That's why we have habits, because you're doing things mindlessly without even thinking about it. So you can do that with good things. Often you think like, oh, I have a habit, because you smoke or you drink or you're whatever, right? You have these bad habits, but you can also develop good habits with the same way by making it so you don't even need to think about it. And of course, you're always going to have to think about like what you're doing today, but you don't have to think about that in the moment. If you create your plan ahead of time. And then that's the other thing. I think, we're jumping on like developing plans and stuff, but we also need to know what we're going to do, right? Like what our goal is. And so we're going to talk about that too in the workshop. It's like choosing the thing that you want to focus on. So, ideally you arrive with something, but so often, there's a couple of things floating around in there, but I think we're going to want to surface, what it is that you want to work on or focus on for the duration of the workshop. And of course, what we're teaching is not just for the specific thing that you're doing that day. This is like repeatable stuff that you can apply to whatever goal for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. You can repeat it. Like you said, you could take the principles and reapply to any aspect.
Yeah.
But even in identifying what's really most important to you. Because another thing that I've seen a lot with business owners is, how you were saying before about habits being easy and that's why people do them. Well, it's the same thing sometimes with what we do in our businesses that are easy, but not necessarily getting us to where we want to go.
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes we will sit back and go, oh, I'm going to just answer a couple emails here. I'm going to post this on Facebook, or I'm going to do this today. I'm going to work on my website. I'm going to write a blog post, whatever it is that you do, because it's easy. But maybe what you really need to be working on that day is calling potential clients.
Right.
Or going to a networking event because you haven't been to one in a while and nobody's seen you for a while and you need to start getting yourself out there more. So it's easy for us to just do what we feel. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this, but we want to feel like we're accomplishing something every day. So sometimes we avoid the stuff that we really need to be working on where we're going to see the results. Because it doesn't make us feel as accomplished. Because sometimes with a plan, right? If we want to get to a certain goal, we're not going to get there tomorrow. It might take us 6 months. It might take us a year to get to where we want to go. So we might say, oh, I don't really want to do that today because it's like, I'm not getting there. But I can get this off my to-do list and I can check it off and feel accomplished.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that people are really going to get out of our workshop is they're going to learn to say, you know what, I know you like to feel accomplished by your to-do list, but let's refocus. What do you really need to be working on?
Right.
And now how are you going to work on it and feel accomplished? Because once you have that plan, even if it's a year till you get to your goal or 6 months, you've got that plan and you're going, oh, I can check things off of a list. I can do this. And it quantifies that for you and gives you what you need.
That's right. I know it can be it can be really, really frustrating if everything that you're doing is just like ongoing and never ending. And the desire to be able to check something off the list to reach some point of completion that day it can be like really strong. Early in my career, like my first grown-up job was as an executive assistant. And there is nothing that's ever done about an executive assistant job. And what I would do is I would keep a pile of things to be filed so that when I felt like I wanted to accomplish something, I would just file stuff. Because that's like, you make your little labels and it's all very, you know, something you have control over, whereas everything else is just really, is like a real challenge. But I always think about that. It's like, you know, I would feel really frustrated with like this slog of like, oh, I gotta, you know, whatever it was that I had to do that day. And just like the sense of like satisfaction to have an empty to be filed pile. So,
Very true.
yeah, yeah. So we have a couple more minutes, and we've spent some time talking a little bit about the workshop and what we've opened it. The registration is open, so that's cool.
Yep, it just opened today, so people can find it on Eventbrite.
Yep.
So if you go to Eventbrite, and I think if you just type in ideas to done, it should probably pop right up, hopefully.
It should pop right up. And also, if you are a member of any of my the members of True North Business Management, if you're on any of my lists, if you registered to get a recording of this video, you'll get information, of course, about the workshop. And I'm sure the same is true for Kim. She's going to share that with her people as well. So as a follow-up to this video, I'll absolutely share information about that. But it's on January 10th, which is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it's here in Boston. We should mention that. So it's an in-person workshop.
In-person in Boston.
So sorry.
It's actually going to be, and I don't think I've even updated you on this, Sarah. So it's going to be on Newbury Street, which is always fun. People love going to Newbury Street.
Yeah, yeah.
A nice, fun part of Boston. So, and I've even been lucky with street parking lately, which is just amazing.
I knew it. Wow.
Twice in a row, I had parking.
You know, I have friends who live in a very congested part of Boston. And so folks who aren't familiar with Boston, parking is a challenge. And I think that's true for like cities in general. But anyway, they notice that parking is easier these days in this, the thinking is that because kids, I call them kids, anybody who's younger than me is a kid, kids don't have cars.
Right.
They've been using the ride sharing services.
Yeah, that's true.
So not giving anybody any, like not naming.
No pluggings, right?
Ride sharing services, but you know what I mean when I say that. And so this is, and a lot of people, a lot of kids don't even have their license. Yeah. So I think we notice that those of us who drive, the grown-ups, or I don't know, the people who are like destroying the environment, however you want to choose, we find parking a little more easy.
Yeah, that's true. And I do try to take the T a lot when I can. I do like to take the T. But that's actually the nice thing is where we're doing the workshop. It is near actually 3 T stops.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 on the green line, 1 on the orange line. So it's very convenient.
Even the red line if you want to walk from Park Street.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can do that.
Which is not very far because it's so it's a lovely location. Lunch is included, and we're keeping it to 12 people so that we can have the attention and focus that we need for this kind of work, because we were putting together the agenda, and it's just chock full of like stuff to do, and there's really, it's really important. We can't shorten it. It's just got to be exactly what it is. So we're really excited about this, and we're looking forward to it. And
yeah, and I think to add to that, I think it's important to emphasize that sometimes when you go to a workshop or a class or something, it's in lecture format, right? So you're sitting there, you bring your notebook, you're taking notes, and somebody's lecturing all day. That, I find it's very hard to sit through. It's hard to sit through a lecture all day long. You just get so tired and you stop focusing, and sometimes it can be boring. So this workshop is different in that you're not really getting lectured at all day long. We're going to talk a little bit about something, teach you how to do it, and then you're going to sit there and you're going to do it, and you're going to have your worksheets, and you're going to figure things out, and then if you need help, we're going to help you, and then you can work in a group, and everybody's going to be helping each other out because everybody's had such different experience. I mean, that's what I find when I host workshops like this. You wind up, one of the nice things is you get a lot of people that are similar to you but have had different experiences, so you can really benefit from the conversations going on in the room, because one person will say, I'm really struggling with this piece, and then somebody else will say, oh, I figured that out last year, and here's how I did it, and it's been great. And now you're not only learning from the two of us giving the workshop, but you're learning from the people around you and all of those resources that are coming into the room.
Yeah. So building your professional network as well, maybe hopefully making some new friends too, and folks that you can share this information with later on, and just continue to develop and grow your business. Not so much in vacuum anymore. So that's great. So Kim, just let people know again where they can find you online.
Yeah, so my website, which just got updated and live today.
Oh, very exciting. Everything was planned. That's great.
I've been working on it for a while. It really needed an update. So my website is kdawsonco.com. I could not get my full URL of Kim Dawson. It is kdawsonco.com, but you could find me there and get some more information. Please reach out to me as well. I'm always happy to chat with people. If you have any questions, you can actually schedule a call with me, and we can just chat and see what you need, and tell me a little bit more about your business and all of that. So yeah.
Great. So thanks everyone for joining us. And once again, this is Sarah Hawkins from True North Business Management, and you can find me online at truenorthbusinessmanagement.com. And this is the Ideas to Done conversation, twice monthly conversations with people in business about how to get more done in business as well as in life. You can also join. I've got a Facebook group, a small but mighty Facebook group called Ideas to Done, and this is where we talk about continue the conversation that has started here on the webinar. So hope to see you there, as well as on future Ideas to Done conversations. So good to see you all. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Kim.
Bye-bye. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.